Baby, right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Friday edition of Before You Bet, airing live right now on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and subscribe button right down there. Great big show planned for you guys today because it might be the last day of the NBA season. The Celtics looking to sweep the Dallas Mavericks tonight down in the Lone Star State. So we're going to be all over that. I think 4 total picks from John and I, then 4 picks for Major League Baseball, a couple of topics to kick around off the top of the show here. Let's get into it. Let's bring on my guy, the Ass Man. Nice enough to be joining us from a hotel. Is that a Best Western you're at, John?
It's not a Best Western. It does look like a Best Western, though, eh? Like the backdrop.
Yeah, it's a lovely. Is that a suite you're in? Look at you got a couch and some nice artwork behind you there.
I don't know. I think it's just the style of the room. I didn't book anything fancy. So
yeah, very, very classy stuff indeed. Okay, John. So we were on the show here on Wednesday, hoping, fingers crossed, praying that the Mavericks were going to make this a series. It doesn't look like that is going to be the case here. Everything kind of pointing towards the Celtics wrapping things up tonight. So a couple different ways of looking at this run for the Celtics. They're beating the living shit out of everyone, right? They've only lost 2 times in these playoffs. So dominant run by the Celtics on one hand. On the other hand, though, this has been an incredibly easy path for them. So both things are absolutely true in this case. They're killing everybody, but there wasn't a team in the Eastern Conference that was properly equipped to beat them, because everyone's been beat to shit. You know, Giannis and Dame were out. Jimmy Butler was out. Donovan Mitchell, Halliburton go down. The Knicks completely beat to shit. Joel Embiid was unhealthy. Now, all that said, you can't really kill the Celtics for that because it's not their fault. They can't control the health of other teams. What do you want them to do? Pit Tatum and Brown on the bench to even the playing field? That's not how things work. You know, we see situations like this all the time. People want to kill the Toronto Raptors when I think it was 2019 when they beat the Warriors because KD and Klay Thompson went down. Yeah, that played a big role. What do you want the Raptors to do about that? You know what I mean? It's the same thing this time around. Yeah, the playoffs have sucked, but you can't really blame the Celtics for that, right? Now, people got to pump the brakes, Celtics fans. This is an all-time team. Look at the regular season record combined with what they're doing in the playoffs. You got to chill out on that a little bit. But where do you stand on this here, John? The Celtics, they deserve a lot of credit, I think, and none of this is really their fault. They're just going out and playing basketball, right?
Yeah, I think it's their path. It's their path through the Eastern Conference that kind of makes this championship look easier, right? Because you kind of expected, you win first round should be pretty easy, but then it's like you probably have to go through Knicks 76ers round 2 and then the Milwaukee Bucks or someone in the Eastern Conference Finals, and just none of that happened. So it's kind of like that path. I mean, crushing the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals, that's incredibly impressive. That's the Dallas Mavericks got through the West, which was an incredibly difficult path in their own right. So, I mean, beating the Mavericks like that, I do think when I look at the Celtics, I think they lost the NBA Finals a couple years ago. You look at you lost the Warriors. It's a team that shoots a lot of threes. They came out, they adjusted their roster to shoot even more threes than everyone else. And now I feel like everyone, sports is like very copycat. I feel like everyone's kind of going to look at the Celtics roster and be like, we don't shoot enough threes. And how do we expect to beat a team that like the Boston Celtics without shooting more threes? And I think you're going to see it kind of change the roster construction of teams moving from here on out. Cause it was very normal. Like you go way back that you had one shooter and then all of a sudden the Warriors had 3 or 4. Celtics have 5. And like the Mavericks, like you literally just can't compete with the amount of shot attempts the Celtics are taking from 3 versus the Mavericks. And I think it's going to change once again how rosters are kind of constructed here. People are going to look at what the Celtics did here and how easily this run was for them with that type of roster. They need to have Porzingis for like they're not even really in this series and the 2 series before. So I think it's going to once again kind of shake up how you see rosters built.
Yeah, I give Porzingis all the credit in the world for that Game 1 win. I think he was. Yes. There was an MVP of Game 1. You give it to Porzingis. there. So we know how this works, right? You got to blame somebody. There's got to be something negative. And Luka's been getting absolutely killed in the media since game 3. He was awful defensively. We saw him foul out. But most of all, the crying and complaining to the referees. Now, this is nothing new. Anyone who watches a little bit of Dallas Mavericks basketball will tell you that that's probably Luka's biggest flaw. It is a bad look, but now he's doing it on the biggest stage, the NBA Finals here. So I don't know. It's nothing new, and I don't think this is going to change here, really. I don't think the Dallas Mavericks are going to reprimand him. I tweeted about this the other day, that these teams are absolutely scared shitless that if they mistreat the star player, then they're going to look to bolt, because that's kind of how it works in the NBA a little bit. But I don't know. Luka, it's almost like he's out there on an island at times. I know Kyrie had a good game in game 3. He scored 35 points, but I don't blame Luka for this. I blame the bench of the Dallas Mavericks. They've been absolutely pathetic. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Maxi Kleber are combined 1 of 14 shooting in the series so far. And I think that's a big reason why they haven't been able to get over the hump. You know, they've had situations in these games where they start to narrow the gap and they get within a handful of points, and they just can't get over that hump against the Celtics. And I think the poor play of their bench is the main cause of that. But yeah, probably a bad look for Luka. But do you really blame him a whole lot here, John?
I think Luka probably walks away from this, and like, he's obviously not the best defender or willing, but the thing is, sometimes he does lock in and he does kind of play good defense. I think he probably walks away from this realizing that, you know, against like 95% of the league, you kind of can hide them on defense, and you can't really expose them as much as the Celtics are. But when you get into an NBA Finals and you're facing the very best team in a best of 7 series, you got to come and you got to defend. And I think that's kind of maybe something he works on, or maybe he just doesn't, and maybe he just continues to be the player he is. But that would kind of be my takeaway if I was Luka Doncic. Just there has to be some form of a commitment to playing better defense in my future. The bench shooting, I saw it too. Is like Tim Hardaway Jr. hasn't scored since May 18th. So that's the bench. The thing is that what really killed the Mavericks is they opted for more defense and like a little bit less shooting, and like that less shooting was way below average. So it's just, you know, when you're kind of counting on those guys, like all the other series, you know, PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., they're hitting corner threes. Maxi Kleber, he can shoot it. He's not making them. I mean, he also has the shoulder injury. You don't really know. I mean, the bench is, it's a big swing. The 3-point gap, I tweeted after last game, it was 46 to 25 attempts. You just can't win. Like the 2 games the Celtics lost in these playoffs, the Heat took more threes than them. In the one game they beat them, and they shot it really well. The other one, the Cavaliers, they're about like 2 or 3 behind them in attempts, but they shot it way, way better than the Celtics did in that game. And that's really those are the only 2 games they lost. And it's 2 games where, you know, the opposing team was able to kind of close that 3-point gap. If the Mavericks want to do that, they have to play Hardaway, Hardy, these guys, and then they don't really play good defense. So it's they're up against it. I mean, they're in trouble here. I think we all know that.
Okay, John, before we get into the picks, I got to ask, did your hotel provide a continental breakfast?
It did have a breakfast, yeah. The breakfast,
break it down for us. What they have?
The breakfast in the States at hotels is significantly better than the breakfast at Canadian hotels. I don't know. I guess I don't really stay in many Canadian hotels, but just from my experience in the past, like you go to the States, it's like the full on like waffle maker, pancakes, bagels, fruit, yogurt, like, you know, the juice machine, coffee, whatever you want, cereal. It's like oatmeal. Like it's just like the whole slate of breakfast. Obviously, your bacon, egg, sausage, all that stuff too. So, yeah, that's always my experience in the States. Oatmeal. Yeah,
that caught my attention too. Did you help yourself to some oatmeal at the continental breakfast?
I just saw it there, so that's not what I went for. I went for the bacon and eggs and stuff. I am the waffle machine. So
yeah, I don't think too many people are helping themselves to the oatmeal at continental breakfast. Now, a tip before we get into the picks, and I've discussed this before on social media, but you can, if you are dressed in a presentable manner, and probably you're better off doing this by yourself, you can walk into any hotel and just help yourself to the continental breakfast there. Don't do anything to stand out. Go there, dress. Don't be in there dressed like a complete and total bum. But if you look like a respectable person, no one's going to say anything to you. If you're walking into a hotel, grab a copy of the newspaper, sit down, help yourself to a free breakfast. Okay, let's get into the picks here, John. I have a side and a total. You got a couple props. Let's start with the side. And my prediction is that this will be the final day of the NBA season. Going to take the Celtics straight up, a good old-fashioned full game money line bet. The Mavs simply have no answers as Boston has multiple ways to beat them. Jason Tatum forgets how to score. Celtics win anyways. Need someone to pick up the slack? Holiday or Derek White get hot. Celtics win. Kyrie Irving finally shows up and scores 35 points. Celtics still win. You look at the run they're on right now, 10 straight wins, 12 straight wins over Kyrie, if you want to get into that angle. And the Mavs in this series, this is literally not an exaggeration. This is some of the worst offensive basketball they played all season. An effective field goal shooting percentage of 48.8 in this series. Now, to show you how bad that is, only the Trailblazers had a worse number than that during the regular season. I know a 3-game sample size versus a whole season, but I think it's pretty good proof that Dallas has sucked offensively, highlighted by shooting 28.2% from 3. And Dallas's bench has been a complete and total embarrassment in this series. They're averaging 15 points per game off the bench, a field goal shooting percentage of 37.8, more turnovers and assists for these guys. It's not good. They're flat out just choking, collapsing out there. So yeah, Celtics, put us out of our misery here. Let's go on to the offseason. So yeah, I like the Celtics to win outright. John, what's the first prop you want to get into here?
So I'm going Derek White over 4.5 assists plus 140. That's what it. So if you go into most sports books, you're going to see 3.5 like minus 160. This is an alternate. You go to the player assist milestones on Bet365, and there's a plus 140 sitting there for 5 assists. I bet this is 4.5 plus 135. So pretty similar number. You look at Derek White in this series, and every single time, every single game, if it was any other matchup and you saw the prices on his assist prop, you're like, this is a great price. I would love to take this. But the problem was in this matchup specifically against the Mavericks, he was stuck in the dunker spot, and not stuck for this prop. It was a great move by Joe Mazzulla to put him there from a strategic standpoint. But like in a regular season game, Derek White's up top. He's running, Horn's offense. The ball is in his hands. He's coming off double drag screens. There's all these opportunities for potential assists. But because they were trying to pull Gafford and Lively away and like ruin the Mavericks rim protection, you have Porzingis out on the 3-point line, and now you leave White and Drew Holiday in the dunker spot, and they are converting easy dump offs. For his assist prop, that's terrible because there's nothing he can do from that spot to create potential assists. The flip is, I personally don't think Porzingis is playing, and even if he does play, it might honestly just be like 10 minutes so he can say he played in the game type thing. I don't think he's going to see any form of significant minutes. So with Porzingis out, the Mavericks made a switch. They put in Gafford Lively. They're leaving them at the rim, and they're going to guard the person in the dunker spot, and they're putting a smaller person on Al Horford because Al Horford can't really punish you in the post. So what that does is creates a scenario where all of a sudden there's no value to leave Derek White in that dunker spot anymore from the Celtics perspective. So now he's being pulled out to the 3-point line. The ball's in his hands more. So it's just a shift in like strategy based on Porzingis being out and how all the moving pieces in this series. So at 4.5 plus 140, with Derek White being pulled out and playing on the perimeter now, I'm all over this prop. I love this prop for Derek White.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm going to go back to the well on the full game under for this game. It's down to 211.5. I think it was 212.5, 213 there in game 3. I still like it here at this number, 211.5. If it's not broke, then do not fix it. The teams still haven't eclipsed 205 points in this series. I think offense off the bench could be an issue for both teams. I talked about Dallas averaging just 15 points per game. Their bench, the field goals, the shooting has been horrendous, especially from 3-point land. Now, we saw Boston's bench without Porzingis in game 3. They only scored 12 points. Porzingis probably not going to play. If he does, I agree with John. It will be limited minutes out there. The 3-point shooting for each of these teams has been pretty goddamn awful, especially for Dallas. And you check out the Celtics on the road. Very low scoring pattern for them in the playoffs. Average combined score of just 203.6 in their road playoff games here so far. So give me the Celtics and give me the under in this one. Metler, your final prop, maybe of the season.
Oh, it's so sad.
The pressure's on. What do you got?
I'm going Al Horford over 2.5 assists plus 140, another plus 140. This is playing off of the same idea where I just don't expect minutes for Porzingis, and it's a shift in how everyone's being guarded. So, like I said, the Mavericks, they want to keep their rim protection near the rim. They've been pulled out all series. They did it last game where they put smaller guys on Al Horford. And what that meant was there was a couple times where Al Horford went back to the basket in the paint, but Al Horford doesn't have much of a back to the basket game. So he was more looking to facilitate. And the thing I love about this, he did get an assist directly off of this. Kyrie Irving was guarding him one-on-one, and then he turned and found someone. He has so many teammates who he can dump the ball to, who can finish at the rim. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek White, all these guys can finish around the rim. So there's so many assist opportunities, potentially high value potential assist opportunities, just because they're going to put someone smaller on him. So that you kind of want to make them pay for that. The other thing too is you're not like completely dependent on this for Horford. Game 1, he had 12 potential assists, and he doesn't necessarily even do anything to get those. He's just standing on the perimeter. It's like we have 4 3-point shooters and we just swing it, and then you swing it and someone shoots it. So the thing is those potential assists, his minutes, for us to have an edge on this number, we only need about 30 minutes from Al Horford. To me, that's not a lot. Like if you're like regular season, random Wednesday in December and Porzingis is out, you're not expecting Joe Mazzulla to run up Horford's minutes. This is game 4. You're up 3-0. You can win the NBA Finals. Like if there's ever a game you're going to put Al Horford, like this also could be his last game in the NBA. So like if he wins, he might retire, right? So he played 36 minutes last game. You only need 30 to create an edge on this number. To me, there's no way you don't get those 30 minutes. You should be looking at least those 30 and probably more. I don't think you don't really want to turn to your bench too much in this scenario. You can win the NBA Finals. The same goes for Derek White. I didn't say it. I put it on the graphic there. Minutes. Derek White, same thing. Only need about 36 minutes to establish an edge. He doesn't play into the 40s. Last game he played 42. This is completely different. You can win the whole thing. So I think I like both of these guys because we don't really need high minutes to win their props.
Now, will you become sentimental if Al Horford gets a hold of that Larry O'Brien trophy and kisses it tonight? I'm guessing there won't be a dry eye in the house, right?
Why is that?
I'm just fucking around with you.
Yeah, I'm like, am I missing a storyline here? I mean,
I guess it'd be nice to see him win it though, right?
He'd be one of the few players, like he won back-to-back national championships with Florida, and he's never won an NBA title. So he'd be one of the few players to have both, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I will be crying more than Luka cries to the referees if we see Al Horford get it done and maybe his last game tonight. Checking in the chat, Tanner says, "Let's go, Joe." Darren Folks, Celtics and Panthers, put us out of our misery, please. Oilers, what a tease that was for their fans last night. Oh my God, they go into a hole, they make a bit of a run at things, and not a good year for the NBA and NHL finals here. By the way, we talked about the whole continental breakfast thing, how you can walk into any hotel, you look like you belong, right? You go in there and maybe you're wearing some nice clothes, you're by yourself, you're keeping to yourself. That same type of approach can often work for sneaking into a movie. Now, don't go to a matinee on a Tuesday at 2:00 when there's going to be no one else in there, but this is a scam that I have pulled off in my younger years. I've pulled a number of scams off in my life, but not so much anymore. Getting too old. Not a good example for my children here either. Okay, I just joined. I hope I didn't miss the MLB props. David CK07. No, you haven't. A couple of props, a money line, and a total for Major League Baseball. Let's get right into it here, starting off with Mackenzie Gore on the bump here for the Nationals. Now, this one was minus 120 to start the day, up to minus 140. And I still like it under 2.5 earned runs for him. He is on a great run right now. 8-1 against this number in his last 9 starts. He is taking on a Miami Marlins team that's struggling against left-handed pitching. 27th in OPS versus lefties over the last 2 weeks. Open the sample size up to the last month. They're 28th in OPS on the road. So Gore set up for success tonight in the nation's capital. Next up, let's go to Toronto, where the disgrace that is the Toronto Blue Jays are hosting the Cleveland Guardians. I'm on the dog here tonight, plus 120. So Kevin Gausman, not a guy you actively look to fade, but maybe you should be. He's been pathetic at home this season. He's got a 6.86 ERA in Toronto. 3 separate games where he's allowed 6 earned runs. Now he's facing a Cleveland team, top 8 in both OPS versus right-handed pitching and OPS on the road over the past month. Now, Logan Allen going for the Guardians. I'm not going to get up here and make a case for him being a sleeper Cy Young candidate by any means. But this is more of a fade of the Blue Jays. He is a left-handed pitcher, and the Blue Jays have been absolutely pitiful against left-handed pitching here over the last month. Dead last in OPS. At home versus lefties in this span, they have an OPS of 445. So maybe Logan Allen, if you're streaming in fantasy tonight, he might be a guy to consider picking up. And then to bring it all together, look at the bullpens. Excellent form here for the Guardians, a 1.02 ERA. Toronto 5.32. So quite literally one of the best versus one of the worst. Plus 120 on the Guardians. Looks like a good number. That might be the first full game money line bet I placed all season, the first or second. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so I bet the over in the D-backs game last night. Going to look to bet it again tonight. It is at 9 with the Chicago Shit Sox in town. And what we have here is an awful starting pitching matchup and 2 horrible bullpens. So Chris Flexen on the man here for the Shit Sox. He's got an ERA of 5.46. Ryan Nelson going for the D-backs. ERA of 6.60. Chicago's bullpen has been absolute bullshit. They have an ERA of 8.52 over the last 2 weeks. You look at Arizona, the ERA for them, not as bad, but maybe it should be worse. They're 28th in FIP in that span. You look at the hitting here for Arizona. They are demolishing right-handed pitching on their home field. Number 1 in WRC plus over the last month. And trends colliding. You guys know I like my trends. The over is 8-2 in Chris Flexen's last 10 starts. 11-2 overall in the last 13 games for Arizona. Now let's wrap things up in Seattle. Luis Castillo on the bump here for the Mariners. Backing this guy under 2.5 earned runs, minus 135. Maybe getting a little bit of a discount. He was roughed up in his last start. Allowed 5 earned runs. But I like him to bounce back. He is 10-1 against this number in his last 11 starts. Set up for success versus a Rangers team that's 27th in OPS versus right-handed pitching over the last month. His best work has come at home, and Texas's offense is struggling on the road. He has a 1.69 ERA over his last 5 starts in Seattle. The Rangers, 25th in OPS on the road over the last month. There you have it. And we are about to get ready to get into the weekend. I got to record a Copa America soccer tournament preview here. After this, what's up this weekend, John? Some LPGA action?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm heading there after this. We'll be there till Sunday for Meyer LPGA. My bets are, I don't know where she stands right now. I know Brooke Henderson's doing really good, and Nelly Korda's not doing good at all. It's like completely drastic from the top 10s I gave out. Hopefully Korda can make the cut and make a run at it, but I gotta say, I can't stop looking. You have the MVP baseball 2005 in the backdrop here. Yeah. That's a new edition. Is that like one of your
PlayStation 2? Well, I bought that specifically for my backdrop. And before I moved to this place, and I forgot to put it up. And I started playing video games again like last week, just because there's not a whole lot of sports and not a whole lot of good TV shows on right now. And I got all my games together, and I said, oh yeah, MVP baseball, which is, everyone agrees, one of the best sports games of all time. It's absolutely fantastic. I don't own a PlayStation 2 anymore. I kind of wish I did so I could play it. But yeah, a great game, how you can charge the mound and argue balls and strikes and get thrown out. A lot of fun, that one.
I always felt like 2005 had one of the best sports years for video games, because NBA Live 2005 with Carmelo Anthony on the front is, in my opinion, one of the best NBA games that's ever came out as well. So it's just I don't know, it's kind of funny. I kept seeing the background. I kept thinking of the NBA Live. They had like the dunk contest, and you could go like 363 times. It's like the most unrealistic thing ever, but it was awesome.
Yeah, I like NBA 2K, how I bought the new version the other night because it was 85% off. It was like $13. So I said, well, fuck it. I'm bored here. Let's buy this. And I like it. I'm such a loser. I do this thing where you set up a league where instead of the normal NBA teams, it's all the classic teams, and you play against them, right? So I don't know. It's kind of fun. It brings me back to my youth. I used to sit in front of the TV for hours on end playing video games, not so much anymore. But
me as well.
We'll see. The kids are getting into it, so.
Yeah, I've logged some serious hours on the PlayStation 2 on sports video games when I was a kid.
What game, if you need to pick a game or a series, sports or otherwise, have you logged the most hours on? For me, it's probably got to be Madden over the years. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say Madden. I put in some, like when I was a kid, Madden 2002, Dante Culpepper on the front, N64. I put on some serious hours, and I think I played that one for like 3-4 years. It was like 2006, and I was still playing 2002 because I was like way deep into my dynasty. Vikings had won like 20 Super Bowls by that point in my dynasty, but
yeah, 5-minute quarters. People seem to be out on Madden though. I haven't purchased it in many years, but people complain about it. They just say the game hasn't evolved at all over the years.
Same thing. I haven't bought a new one. I honestly might buy a PS5 for the new college football game because I enjoyed the college football games growing up as well too.
Yeah, I eventually got to get a PS5 for when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out because it's not going to be released on the PlayStation 4, so I got to stop being cheap. Apparently, they're going to stop making PlayStation 4 games in 2025 anyways, so got to upgrade the old video game system. But yeah, that's enough video game talk here for our Friday afternoon. We're going to look to wrap things up here. Oh yeah, in the poll, the 69% of the chat said they like the Celtics to win. Everyone's turning on the Mavs. We all turned on the Celtics going into the series, but now we're all turning on the Mavs. I am with you guys. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, to all the hardworking dads. Hopefully you guys have a great day and you get to enjoy some time with your family. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in for today's show. Best of luck with all of your bets. We're going to be right back with you guys on Monday, either to preview or game 5 or to kind of put a bow on this thing and look ahead to the off season. But either way, we will see you guys then. Best of luck with your bets this weekend. Woo!